Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the first live stream of this week. So, as you join, I hope this all finds you fine, by the way. And we've got really one topic that we're going to go through tonight. But just before we do that, we do have to have the housekeeping rules of the stream. So, if you're watching this on Facebook, share and like. If you're watching it on YouTube, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell. Please check you're still subscribed, because the naughty people at YouTube sometimes unsubscribe you. Then down below in the description, you'll find all the different links where, if you're so inclined, you can find me on different platforms that still allow free speech. So do make sure you go there as well. If you like what you're saying, this is how we beat the algorithms, folks. You have to promise me thumbs up if you like what myself or Rebecca is going to say. And if you don't like it, really don't say anything, right? I'm going to have to get rid of the small thumbs down. Finally, last but not least, if you want to support the Alt News Media platform, go to altnewsmedia.net/donate, drop £1 in the hat, whatever you want to do. That's all. That would be all good. And I think that's about it. Because it's a live stream, super chats are enabled. So if you want to get your comment up and you want to have it discussed, you know what to do. Right. Without further ado, because it's a Monday night, I am always so delighted to bring on my special Monday night guest, and that is Rebecca Butler. Whoop. She appeared and then she disappeared. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Hello, David. I'm really well, and lovely to see Liz Barber and Lee on here, and Chris, always one of the first as usual. Hi, Ozzy. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad to see people from as far away as our usual Hawaiian Donny girl. We've got from Pennsylvania. We've got, I see City Troll, my friend Patty. Yeah, thanks, folks, for all joining the stream. And I'm glad some of you, by the way, have commented on the new background. Isn't it so impressive? That's all down to the works of our producer, Jed. So a big thank you to Jed for all the work he's doing.
So where in Pennsylvania is City Troll from?
Patty, answer the question you've been asked. You've been asked a question. Actually, it's quite good, Rebecca. We get to ask questions of the stream before they ask questions.
I'd be interested to know, because I spent my first 5 years of elementary education in Pennsylvania, because my dad was a steel man and he worked at the Bethlehem Steelworks. So we lived in Bucks County. So I'd love to hear where your Pennsylvania friend is from. I'm sure we will in a minute. Oh, originally Philadelphia.
Originally Philly. Yeah, actually, I have met him and his family some years ago now in a visit to. Was it? Yeah, it wasn't. It was Philadelphia, Patty. I think it was. Anyway, that's enough reminiscing for now. We got to get to the topic. It's a serious topic tonight, folks, and it's kind of been one of these stories which has kind of grown and changed and twisted, and it's gone off into 100 different angles. So let me just see if I can set the thing up, Rebecca, first. So we're going to talk about this lady. If we could just bring her picture up. Her name is Sarah Everard. And she was a 33-year-old marketing executive, I believe, excuse me, who went missing around about, I think, Rebecca, the 1st of the month or the 3rd of the month. She went missing on a journey in South London somewhere, and she never turned up. So all the alarms went out, and then, very, very tragically, her body was found. I don't know if we can just bring the next one up, the next slide, please. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty horrendous, Rebecca. I mean, the young lady's body was found in a builder's bag, my God, and identified using dental records. And this was actually 3 days after she went missing. So the body was located quite quickly, you might say, even though it's absolutely horrendous. And then, Rebecca, I remember you and I talking about it during last week. A serving Metropolitan Police Constable was charged with the kidnapping and the alleged murder. And that was sort of, if we just take that one off the screen and we bring back, and that was the genesis of it. Now, in the first instance, obviously, it goes without saying, it's a horrific murder. no doubt about it. We need to wait. We need to let justice, however, be seen to be done. Everyone in this country is innocent until proven guilty, and that includes this guy. I also had heard, Rebecca, that he apparently worked for one of the elite protection squads. Did you read that? So anyway, he was within 2 to 3 days, obviously brought in for questioning, and there we go. That's where the initial thing was. So sadly, people are murdered in this country. You know, it happens. Murders happen. But this one then took off at a rate of knots, didn't it?
Yeah, it's funny how some do and some don't. You know, Madeleine McCann is another one where, the story hits the headlines at the right time and it becomes huge and far bigger than another story on another day. And they're all tragic, of course. And this one, it really made me feel sick to read that her remains, not even her body, her remains were found in a builder's bag and identified by dental records. Everything that is underwritten in that, her poor parents and her family must be haunted by the thought of what happened to that girl. I mean, look, the most horrific things normally happen post-mortem, but nevertheless, as a parent, to have to go through the visualization of what's happened to your child, even post-mortem, is horrendous. So I can't tell you how sick I feel inside me by the death of a human being. It's not a special death because she's a pretty girl. It's not a special death because she's a woman. It's the needless loss of life of a human being, and an innocent human being. But, you know, an interesting fact which has not been put out there is that this guy was in the DPG, the Diplomatic Protection Group.
Yeah.
He had a firearms license. Does anybody on the stream, I'd like to know this, does anybody on the stream know how long he was in the Met? Total.
There you are. That's the say. I mean, you're really under close interrogation by Rebecca tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, you've asked the question.
The answer is 2 years total.
Hang on, Aussie answer.
Aussie got there.
Yeah. Aussie. Good man. Yeah.
It was not after 2 years service. He was only there for 2 years in the Met, and he's given a firearm, and he's in the Diplomatic Protection Group. A friend of mine who I spoke to in the Met today, he said that the worrying fact of being recruited into the police these days is a pulse is the only requirement. And he said he hated the fact that the Met is being vilified over this, when in fact he's actually not been a serving police officer in the way we understand serving police officers these days. He's only been there for 2 years. So there's a huge amount behind this story. But she wasn't killed because the Met are corrupt and violent and kill women and all of that. She was killed by probably somebody mentally very unwell. It looks like he's tried to smash his head open a couple of times already in police custody. So there is a huge story behind this. There's also his family, a couple of kids and a young wife.
Yeah.
This might be devastating for them as well. This has, the ripple effect of this is truly, truly outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, Rebecca, I mean, we both have kids, you know, mine probably are closer to the age, this young lady's age group than maybe perhaps yours is. But as a parent, I mean, the worst thing I can ever conceive of is if something happened to my kids. You know, I mean, it's the worst thing. And so when stories like this emerge, my response is, I always think that, you know, of the family, as you said, the immediate family and friends and the impact that makes. And having lived here in Northern Ireland for a long time, you know, I'm well aware of the fact that it's always but for the grace of God. You know, wrong time, wrong place. Somebody survives, somebody doesn't. It's just one of those things. But as you say, in a way, I don't particularly want to get into the, you know, what exactly happened and who did what, because actually the weird thing about this one was it then took off, and we've seen this kind of thing happening on social media, Rebecca. So social media is perhaps one of the worst things and the best things that's ever happened to us. But on social media, we started to see lots of posts being made, lots of claims, and almost a campaign. And it resulted in things like, I want to put up a quick couple of images. Just put them all, please. So we saw these images in no particular order, Rebecca, and you can see these placards. Is this a safer London? Maybe not, but we can talk about that, Rebecca. Reclaim these streets. Well, reclaim them from whom exactly? I'm not sure. And then flip up the next one. Killed by the system we're told protects. By the system, Rebecca? No. Next slide. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Rebecca, it's so egregious. No killers, no cops. Sisters run the block. Where do you even start with these? Have we another one? There's several of these. Yeah, there was loads of them, Rebecca. Annoyed the heck out of me. Men are afraid women will laugh at them. No, we're not. Women are afraid men will kill them. Well, Rebecca can answer this, but I don't think so. And is there any more? Or is that? Yeah, I think this one really irritated me. When will women be safe? Protect your daughter. No, educate your son. I've educated my son, as is Rebecca, as will have any sensible parent. Our sons do not need to be educated to, to look out for women and to behave decently. So I think that's probably all of them, actually. I don't think I have any more slides. Yeah, Rebecca. And that's all actually put my blood pressure through the roof. But this is all the reclaim. What do you make of? Oh, sorry, one last one before you start, because this is the killer. Well, the Patsy Stevenson was the red-haired lady who the police sort of arrested the other night at Clapham Common, and she's gained a lot of celeb out of it. And she, as she said here, I've just gone viral. I've decided to make a Twitter again to follow what's going on. All in solidarity. And as you can see, renowned philosopher Angela Venya said that solidarity with you, sister. If there's anything I can do, then message me, love, Angie. So, okay, Rebecca, I'm going to turn it over to you. All this drives me, infuriates me, drives me mad. Please make sense of it for me.
Look, let's talk numbers. Knife crime in London kills more young black teenage boys than anything else. So if any group should be demanding reclaim of the streets, it actually ought to be the police to say, we need to reclaim the streets for the common man and woman who isn't a knife-carrying criminal. So that's first of all. We have a huge number of pickpocket offences. We have a huge number of especially Albanian gangs holding people up, mugging them. And actually, these are very life-changing, violent street mugging. And the criminals are usually never caught. We have an overwhelmed police service. We have a mayor, I beg your pardon, who is effectively the police and crime commissioner for London, who sits on the bloody fence over this, didn't know whether he was for the vigil or against the vigil, whether there is a coronavirus pandemic and nobody should be protesting at all. He didn't know what to say about it. And when some two-bit actress with red hair, when I saw that first image, I thought, oh yeah, well that is going to be the totemic image for this.
Yeah.
I saw the VT leading up to that, and she was 100% goading the police officer. I saw it. They were asking her to move away, to stand aside, and then something happened to the police behind. She was standing very much at the front of the bandstand, and you could see the police officer saying, please move back, please move back, please move back. And she basically gave him, F off, I'm not doing it. And so, as a result of that, she ended up on the floor. But of course, Twitter only captures the snapshot.
Right.
She's a physics student, I think, at one of the London universities, Royal Holloway, I think she is, and also a part-time actress. Well, what a shock.
Yeah. But see, the
Well, that
thing
would be really good for her career, but it's okay because Angie has got in touch because you know what? There's an election in a few weeks, and guess what? Ed Davey, Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Sadiq Khan, they've all jumped on the bandwagon of this. And frankly, I speak this as a woman. Back off! We don't need you, mate. As a child, I was taught never be on the streets alone at night in the dark. Just don't do it. Be home in time to be safe. I lived in London. I was at Guy's Hospital. I lived there, and we were told by the recruiting people, always walk in the middle of the road, get a taxi home, just be safe, because London Bridge at the time was a bit dodgy. So we just kept ourselves safe. That doesn't mean that every man is a criminal, and it doesn't mean that every woman is a potential rape victim. Absolutely not at all. London is significantly safer than it was 30 years ago. The country is significantly safer than it was 30 years ago. And women are not especially the targets of crime. Women are targets of other things that are social in consequence, but not criminal in consequence. So, as I've said on social media today, don't quote crime stats at me. I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in the rape conviction rate. This wasn't a rape. This was a murder. The two aren't even close to being comparable. Sexual assaults, there's no comparison at all. You've got to look at other behavior to ask why women feel intimidated in certain areas, but then men feel intimidated in certain areas. So why are we making this a feminist statement rather than just a community statement? How can we improve things?
Well, exactly. I mean, Jed rightly makes a point that he didn't see the sisterhood coming out for the young girls in Rotherham or for the lady murdered on the 3rd of March. You're quite right, Jed. I mean, but for me, Rebecca, this is the really strange thing. This part-time actress who has been to the fore, she actually, I put about a video earlier today on this, and she was interviewed. She did a lot of media interviews, Rebecca, and in one of the interviews, she was asked, "Well, what brings you to Clapham Common?" And she started off by saying, "Well, she was there to stand by all women and trans women, blah 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 blah." And there's a sentence of this. She didn't say the obvious thing. I'm here to pay my respects to the murdered lady. Instantly all about her. I'm here because I'm jumping on this bandwagon, that bandwagon, and the other bandwagon. And I wonder, from as a woman, when you see this, how do you feel about people that you can obviously see, Rebecca, what they're doing? How do you feel about that from a woman's point of view?
Well, I just think that actually it's a modern disease, that people are more interested in emoting a set of facts rather than analysing the facts behind a set of facts.
Yeah, true.
I mean, the Sarah Everard murder is such a rare thing. I've never heard, I'm sure the stream will help me here, but right now I can't recall a police officer actually ever abducting and killing a young woman randomly like this. I can't remember this situation ever happening. I mean, let's look at the other comparable cases. You've got Harold Shipman with probably 120 odd deaths attributed to him, murders, in very unique circumstances, but acting as a doctor. You've got Beverly Allett, 30 odd babies killed in her care when she was a nurse. Those are the two that immediately spring to mind, which are positions of trust. This guy wasn't actually on duty as a police officer, is just hello, by the way, he is employed as a police officer. So he might just as well be a bricklayer for all the relevance of him being in the Met actually is. So, you know, when you say, you know, as a woman, as a member of society, I am appalled by this. But as a member of society, I don't think I want to make this a women's issue, because it includes men as much as it includes women. And if you start emoting something and putting identity politics into it, then you're suddenly saying, well, all men can't have a comment on this because it doesn't affect them. Of course it affects men. This appalls men as much as it appalls women. So this isn't a women's issue. Absolutely not.
Completely agree with you, Rebecca. This is it. The only thing is, I would say, as a man, when I see those placards, you know, which are basically all men are rapists. I mean, essentially, that's what the message is coming from. It's only a fringe. It's a fringe lunatic group, as far as I can see, really. But it's annoying. It's really, really annoying, because we all know, people on the stream know this, you know, most men, like most women, are really are decent people at heart. And you know, we have our imperfections, but we're decent, I think, at heart. So I find it just very, very annoying. But what's more annoying is the way the media has jumped on this one and have grabbed the ball, and they're right off into the you know, into the other half straight away. And we're having then all kinds of things being said. I mean, the thing that struck me is, again, I don't want to play the gender game, and you're right, Rebecca, that's a great point you just made. But, you know, all this demonization of, let's talk about the Met, the Metropolitan Police, because as you say, it's not really even a relevant discussion, but they've got their placards out, and there are things that I could show on this channel, but I won't show. There was rallies, there was things, language used, which isn't YouTube friendly, and I didn't want to use it anyway, to be honest. But you know, the anger that was being generated towards the police force in the first instance, it's kind of, you know, I mean, they basically said, F the police, get the police off the streets. Who will maintain the rule of law if the police aren't there? And by the way, quite a few members of the Met are women, not that it matters. And by the way, you know, the head of the Met, Cressida Dick, is a woman as well. Not that it matters. They don't seem to see that. Why is that?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, as I say, you know, when you allow feelings and emoting of an issue to cloud, you know, it's my lived experience is the new buzzword for you cannot comment because you're a man, because my lived experience of a woman is X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But it's such a intellectually dishonest way to approach the argument, because if you do take the argument to its logical conclusion, so you say, right, well, all men are rapists or all men are offenders against women, then okay, I'll accept that. Hypothetically, I'll accept that argument. Then what? Do you then treat all men as criminals? Do you then abandon the long-held, you know, standards of evidence? Do you then say, well, it's different for men? So you have an apartheid between the sexes. So when there's an allegation against a man, do we now have balance of probabilities in a criminal court rather than beyond reasonable doubt? And this is the problem with this agenda. And I, you know, would like to talk about sex offences and rapes and rape convictions, because when I was a criminal barrister, I did do a lot of defending in rape trials. I would really like to discuss that, because a lot of the narrative is about there aren't enough rape convictions. Ergo, juries are not convicting enough people at trial. Ergo, juries are getting it wrong. Well, so what? Then do you not have a jury for a rape trial? You know, are you eroding the very foundations of jurisprudence by saying my starting position is men are all enemies, therefore we have to do something to make women safer? Those two are completely intellectually discordant positions, because the one does not result in the other. and getting a result of more men convicted is not going to make women safer. It is going to make no difference whatsoever. And by the way, just one more on my rant, and I really am going to mention this, God forgive me. We have diplomatic relations with a country that stones women to death and beheads women in public spaces for adultery. Go figure. I'm not interested in Angela Rayner's Angie's views on the actress who gets kneeled to by the police. Tell me what you're doing about Saudi Arabia and their treatment of women in public squares for what are effectively matrimonial misdemeanors. You stone women to death and you support those regimes. So let's have a discussion about institutional hatred of women by government systems. Let's talk about that. Because that's a bigger topic. That's a bigger subject.
It is a bigger topic, and it's a global topic because Saudi's one. There are many other countries in the world which seem to place almost no value on the life of a woman. So that is that's very true. But you asked the question there. Well, if the starting point is all men are potentially violent and blah blah blah, what are we going to do? Well, we saw a couple of suggestions. We had Baroness Jones, the Green Loon, and yeah, no, you can't make this stuff up. In the Commons in the Lords suggesting that there should be a 6 p.m. curfew, and if that wasn't okay, she maybe said it tongue in cheek. Maybe she did. Let's give her that. But then we had Mark Drakeford. Did you see Mark Drakeford, the First Minister, highly educated Mark Drakeford down in Wales, suggesting that he couldn't rule it out, but he couldn't rule it in. Top guy. And then I see a couple of in SNP loons were also joining on. So isn't it amazing that the idea could even be countenanced because it's cognitively dissonant. There's no way it could ever happen. But yet, should we lock the blokes up at 6 p.m.? What do you think, Rebecca? Should we be locked up?
Well, apparently all of offences happen after 6. So what happens at 4 o'clock in the winter in Aberdeen? Because it's pretty dark there in December. What rubbish. Is it dark at 6? I mean, what about in the summer? Is it 10 o'clock? I mean, should we go back to curfews based on sunset? Why 6 o'clock? This was, I think Baroness Green was taken out of context a little bit because, what she said was in a long speech about how, women are vulnerable on the streets if they're on their own. But what, I've done that. And I bet every woman on the stream tonight will say, our mothers always said, keep an extra £5 in your purse so you can get a taxi home at night. Never walk alone at night. It's like risk management. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's sexist or there's anything the government can do about it. You just manage your own risk. It's why you don't drive at 100 miles an hour on a motorbike on wet roads. Life is risky and there are all sorts of people around, and it's a deranged mind that will abduct and kill another human being.
That's
so
right.
I don't accept that you are going to achieve anything by incarcerating, locking down and curfewing men. The vast majority of offences against women, again, evidence-based, happen within intimate relationships. So they can happen at 10 o'clock in the morning, the vast majority of offences. And a stranger rape is really rare. Stranger attack is really rare. You're more likely to be attacked by somebody you know as a woman. But why is that a surprise? I mean, it's not a shame or a scandal. It's not even a surprise. Well, that's where the opportunity is. And every criminal needs an opportunity.